Before we jump into this episode, I want to remind you that while Caitlin and Sophia are dietitians, we're not your dietitians. This means the information shared in the Food Freedom Fertility podcast is intended to entertain, educate, and inform. It is not a substitute for medical care. This information is not intended to diagnose, manage, or treat disease. Always consult with your doctor before making any changes.
Welcome to another episode of Food Freedom and Fertility. You have your two bestie hosts here, Sophia Pavia and Caitlin Johnson, registered dietitians. We are experts in women's health, hormones, fertility as it relates to nutrition, and are infertility survivors ourselves. And Sophia is currently wearing her third success story in her belly.
33 weeks with this
beautiful
big old
bump.
bundle.
I love it. And today we have the privilege of having Dr. Natalie Crawford with us, which is just kind of like a really fun full circle moment for me. I think in COVID, I started following you very early on, Dr. Crawford, when lots of questions were being asked about COVID and the potential impact on COVID and fertility. I don't know if this was true before this, but it almost seemed like you became like the voice of reproductive endocrinologists on the airwaves and were being tapped when there were questions about it, or news articles about clinics shutting down and then opening back up. And so I've looked at your beautiful face and watched your YouTube channel.
Thank you.
And it's a very fun thing because Sophia and I got an email a number of months ago saying, do you want to have Dr. Crawford on? And she's publishing a book, The Fertility Formula.
The Fertility Formula. We all have it right here. We have the advanced copy. It says advanced uncorrected proofs not for sale, which makes me feel very special.
Super special. So we're so happy to have you. I'm going to let you introduce yourself and maybe give a little bit of an intro on your background and what you treat and where people can find you at the top of the episode and not just at the end, though we'll circle back. And also how people can order the book and when it's going to be released so that people can get those juicy details from the jump.
Thank you guys so much for having me. And I have to say, Sophia was the first person who received the advanced reader copy in the mail and posted it on the internet. It was my first time to see the book in the wild, for lack of better terminology, in somebody else's hands. I remember screenshotting it and sending it to my entire team. Like, look, somebody has the book.
Yeah.
So also
I got such mixed reviews to that because I quoted you saying something very real, that your fertility, this is something people hate in this day and age. Okay. And so you might hate this statement and go ahead and turn this podcast off if you hate it, because we are
keep listening.
You could, but we are not going to be the show for you if you're like already offended by this statement.
Fair.
Unless you're like wanting to get beyond your own offenses. Like if you're in a place of growth, then okay. But if you're not into that, you have a quote in here. I mean, did I underline it? It's pretty early on in here, but basically you say that your fertility, I mean, I might probably misquote you here, but it's not like the weather, just something that's happening. It's not luck. It is the sum of your choices, lifestyle and otherwise, for all of your adult life, and probably some of before your adult life. Although maybe before you were an adult, it wasn't maybe your choices. It was the choices being made for you. But basically that you have a very active, very important role to play in your own fertility, and simply relegating this to, well, my doctors know best and I don't need to think, is not going to do anything for you. That's the wrong way to go into this.
You know, luck is something that you have no control over. And if that were the case, why would you even host this show? Why would we educate women about their bodies so much? Why do we tell you to be an advocate? And when I think about this, we can't control everything. That's true. There's no one thing that's going to cure or cause your infertility. But we have so much more control than we understand. And that comes from education, how we advocate for ourselves, which doctor we choose to go to, what treatments we do, how we walk through that process if we need to, but also how the world around us shapes our reproductive health and our hormones and our fertility. So all of the connection between
Yeah, the way you eat, live,
inflammation. Yes,
move,
absolutely.
decorate your home.
And you can choose to do with that information what you want, but my strong belief is you deserve to understand that. That there's a plethora of data supporting that chronic inflammation and insulin resistance impact your fertility on multiple levels. And to act like it's just luck or even just do IVF, the rest doesn't matter, we're really doing people a disservice with that mentality instead of having a more proactive approach. And to answer Caitlin's first question, I sat in the seat of being a patient myself. I was well on the way to be a reproductive endocrinologist. So I did my OBGYN training and then reproductive endocrinology fellowship. I'm board certified in both. I got a nutrition degree in college. So all my peers went on to be registered dietitians, but I went to medical school. So I've always
cool.
loved nutrition and had probably a more impactful experience in medical school understanding the lack of nutrition content in the curriculum, coming and knowing so much more than everyone else. So I started always feeling like this is interesting that we don't talk about nutrition and the building blocks of how our entire body functions and how it relates to our fertility. But in medical training, you're a cog in the wheel, right? You're surviving, you're learning, you're in a part of a system. But when I was in training and started trying for my own pregnancies and had multiple pregnancy losses, I sat across from my doctor after my second and was told it was bad luck. There was nothing I could do. It was bad luck. Just keep trying. And it was so dismissive, even as somebody who maybe had said the words to patients before, right? Like maybe I had also said, well, recurrent pregnancy loss is defined as 3 losses. That's what it was at the time. I was told by that physician to go have another loss before they would do any testing. And it felt like a knife to my heart. I felt like something was wrong. I was bringing up symptoms. It's made me realize, number one, how important it is to advocate for yourself. You know, even as an OBGYN at the time, I didn't have the tools I needed, and made me realize what a gap there was in understanding, even from trained professionals, on some of these factors when it comes to even as simple as cycle tracking and understanding ovulation and the luteal phase, and then all the lifestyle factors. It didn't make sense to me. Aren't there foods that I should eat or things that are not so great? Or am I working out too much? Or am I doing this or that? And to be told none of that matters, it's all bad luck, just keep trying. I hated it. So I went into, right? I mean, I think we see
because
that
it's like,
over
it's
and
one
over.
thing if your doctor sat you down and said, Natalie, there's nothing you can do, but here's what I'm going to do. And then he has things he's going to do. I'm going to test for this. I'm going to look for that. We're going to try this. That is something. But when a doctor tells you that there's nothing you can do, what you hear is, I'm not going to do anything.
Especially when there's no testing. Yeah. It's not impactful enough to worry about.
Yeah. I don't want to. I don't value this. Okay. Those babies you lost were just ideas. They were just dreams. Okay. So you had a bad dream, sweetheart. Go back to sleep. That's what this sounds like.
So dismissive. And as somebody who sits on the other end of the table now, I know we sometimes don't have all the answers. And I tell patients that. And sometimes we don't have the magic luck to give to somebody. But what we should always strive for, and how I frame it now, is I may not be able to control the outcome. I'm sure going to try. But I can control that you know what's going on. We've tested what we can. Regardless of the answers, we've got a game plan that makes us feel confident that we're doing everything we can to get where we want to be. And that comes twofold: what you're doing independently, what we're doing in clinic, if we're doing treatment. So from my end, being a patient in the midst of my training changed everything for me. I went to my fellowship program director after I'd had my 4th loss and said, I'm
too many.
I was told I needed IVF. That was the only option. Nothing else could help. And yet I was the clinical fellow, so I couldn't do IVF yet. I had to wait until it was a good time to do it in my training because I was the doctor doing IVF. This was my time to learn how to be an IVF doctor. So I took the mentality and said, well, if that's the case, and even in IVF, you can only work with the eggs and sperm you have, I'm going to do everything I can to have the best eggs and sperm possible. Despite what we're hearing, I don't really believe this narrative that there's nothing I can do that would impact this. And concurrently, I started doing all of my fellowship research. People may not know that in REI fellowship, it's 3 years. You do a year and a half of research and a year and a half of clinical work. You have to have a thesis, publish it, sit for it, defend it at your oral boards. And most people do an IVF project because it's easier to defend. There's more controlled. And I went to mine and said, that's not me. I want to study natural fertility. I want to study menstrual cycle, the luteal phase, vitamin deficiencies, ovarian reserve. I want to know globally why some people fall into this camp of having infertility more than others. And luckily, I was at a place that really supported me in that research, and I got a master's in clinical research. And that's when I really started to see that inflammation is in all the literature, and it predates having infertility, and it's in studies of people who aren't necessarily going through IVF, but it's also in those studies also. But as a medical physician, we're luckily seeing the tide turn on how we talk about inflammation. But as a medical physician, we were taught about inflammation on the disease pathway, meaning endometriosis causes inflammation, therefore it's bad. Yet all of this literature is talking about inflammation predating disease. And so that really became this crucial moment for me to say, then what all can decrease inflammation, and can't that improve our fertility, especially if fertility is a red flag or a health marker, a warning sign that you might be developing disease later on. And that's what I really have come to believe, that for many circumstances, infertility is a red flag. It's that warning sign. It's a sign of metabolic dysfunction or inflammation in your body, that if we can learn to address it earlier, it will both help you get pregnant or improve your outcomes, but also improve your risk of chronic disease later on down the road. And that's what led me to talk on social media. I'm at Natalie Crawford MD on Instagram and other platforms, to write the Fertility Formula, to open up a practice in Austin, Texas. That's not a just big box IVF practice. We really personalize care. So I practice at 4F Fertility here in Austin. There's just 2 physicians. We really wanted a different model. And that was the origin story of the Fertility Formula over a decade ago. And its published date is April 14th, which I'm so excited about. And
yeah, it's still that you committed. It's right here on the spine of the book even.
It's coming. I was like, we're in the last trimester of my book too. So I'm so
I love that.
we're so excited that it's finally coming after, working years and years. I shared with you both ahead of time that I tried to get this book into the world more than 5 years ago and was told that women didn't want to talk about their bodies, or this was too difficult for people to understand. And I really fought back on that. And this is that persistence for me personally. I hope it helps people on the other end, but even just the fact that it's gotten here is a testament to how women have been in public spaces, sharing their stories, sharing their vulnerability, interested in learning about their body, saying that their hormones, their fertility, it matters to them. And so I'm honored to be here with you guys today and to really be sharing this with the world.
Well, we are really thankful you are talking to us, and we're really thankful you wrote this book. And I think there really are a lot of very vocal women out there that don't want these things that you just said, that if you suggest anything that they've done, or that if you suggest anything, then everything you've ever done is right. Everything you ever will do is right. Everything bad that's ever happened to you has not been your fault, and you live this life with impunity. There are some really loud people that if you're hearing a message other than that, will scream until you die. But I think more like the silent majority are level-headed women that maybe will have an initial emotional reaction to you saying, well, your insulin resistance is actually treatable, and your nighttime cereal is not helping you. They may get mad initially, but like as time progresses, they really do want to heal. They really do want to get better. They really do want something more than applause, because applause isn't going to get you pregnant.
1000%. And it's not blame, because if you don't know something, how are you supposed to act on it? And that is what the narrative from fertility has been for too long, that it's all about age, that there's nothing you can do, so don't worry about it. So if that's been the messaging that you have been getting and receiving, you haven't had the opportunity to understand how your body works, what happens with insulin resistance. And I think at this day and age, if we step back, if we zoom out, we want agency over our bodies. We want to make decisions based on data. Ultimately, it's your individual journey, whatever that is. Your health is yours alone to decide what you want to do with it. The three of us are not here to tell you how to live your life or what to do, but we're here to provide data and information. And then you can decide what makes sense for you. But the place that I have no tolerance for anymore is I've been a reproductive endocrinologist for over a decade. I've sat across from women every single day of my professional career and had people tell me, I wish I had known that sooner. I would have made different choices. And that phrase I want gone. I want you to know that information sooner, and then you can make whatever choices you want. You don't have to do anything, but you should be making them from a place of knowledge and data instead of wishing you could rewind that clock and have done something differently.
Yeah, instead of requesting a time machine.
Sophia and I are so proud to be sponsored by TempDrop. TempDrop is a fertility sensor that you wear on your arm while you sleep, and it has a companion app on your smartphone that you can sync those temperatures with each day. That way you can track your cycle and know your own body while you're tracking your fertility trying to conceive. This is an incredible tool. It's one of the first things I like to recommend to new clients. And if you're listening to this podcast and trying to conceive, consider yourself one and head over to tempdrop.com. One of the reasons why I love this brand and this company so much is how value driven they are. It was born out of a husband and wife trying to conceive and trying to figure out basal body temping and making it easier. And in alignment with that value of making this information more accessible, they have just decided to lower their price. And in a landscape where everything is getting more expensive, I love that this company is making a bold move to make this product and this technology more accessible to women. So the new base price of this model is $189. This is incredible. You can even use our code FFF10 to get 10% off this new lower price. So head to our show notes or to tempdrop.com, grab yourself your fertility monitor, choose the size that you need, throw that code into the checkout area, and get tracking your basal body temperature today. We are taking a break from the episode, and I want to chat with you a little bit about Fertility Cloud. If you've been told you need help ovulating, or you have PCOS and you're trying to figure out your next fertility step, I want to tell you about Fertility Cloud. They make fertility care simple, transparent, and affordable, especially when it comes to ovulation stimulation and ovulation induction treatments. Instead of waiting for months to see a fertility specialist or getting hit with surprise bills, Fertility Cloud lists every price clearly right on their website. You'll see exactly what you're getting into and exactly what it costs. No hidden clinic fees, no surprise invoices later. For my PCOS clients, this is huge. Their ovulation stimulation program can help jumpstart ovulation safely at home with physician guidance and medications delivered directly to you. You can do it all virtually, no driving to clinics or sitting in waiting rooms, and you can often even get appointments same day. If you're wondering, how do we do ultrasounds or what about lab draws? Don't worry, their concierge service helps determine where you can do that locally to you and coordinates with you on your behalf. It's just amazing. And here's the best part. If you're ready to take that next step, you can click the link in our show notes and get $50 off your first appointment. That means you get right in front of a fertility specialist for $115. That first visit gets you matched with a fertility doctor who actually understands your needs, and you'll walk away with a clear plan for your next cycle. So head to the link in our show notes, book your appointment, save $50 on your first Fertility Cloud visit, because fertility care should be transparent, affordable, and built for you. I think this is a really awesome part of like social media and the ability to be a creator and a voice without being whoever the Today Show is picking to talk for a 4-minute segment. Like, it is giving people access to experts like you without actually sitting in your office and allowing you to educate on trends and things that you're seeing. And I think in my time in practice over a decade, what I'm seeing is people not just coming reacting to the struggles that they're having, but actually getting a part of this information and being proactive and saying, I have PCOS. I've heard it's going to be hard for me to get pregnant. What can I do now while I'm like not planning on that for a couple of years, but I want to get ahead of the game? And I think we are going to see a shift over time in women understanding this more. Sophia and I are both moms to 2 girls. Like, my 8-year-old knows more about a woman's cycle than most adults I know.
Same for my 11-year-old.
So true.
Right?
It's so true. Oh my gosh! And now mine want to watch me birth this baby. Watch out with that kind of knowledge. What's going to happen to this next generation if they start watching women birth babies?
To be incredible. That's
so good.
what used to happen. Right?
Yeah, before we got disconnected.
Thank you. This is true. People are like, why would you traumatize a child like that? Or like, this is so disgusting or whatever. And it's like,
oh, what a gift.
I
never went to a birth. My first birth was my first baby, other than my own when I was born. So, most people, that is their experience.
Yeah,
and so
that's
they
so
have
true.
No idea what's coming.
That
no
is
wonder
really
they're
funny
afraid.
because my husband said that when we were getting ready for our first. And our midwives asked, have you ever been to a birth? He's like, I mean, my own.
Truly. Okay. Well, I think we could talk about the shifts and this and that.
But people are here. Listening. They want the data. They want to start here on chapter 6, trying to conceive. This is what they're interested in.
I do kind of want to hear a little bit of the full circle, though, Dr. Natalie, before we jump into the book or your expertise. Is like, close that loop for us. We just heard you have an 11-year-old daughter.
So thank you for asking, Caitlin. I started doing this natural fertility research, started researching fecundability. I was in my, we'll now call it trimester 0. I've been trying to get pregnant for years. It is not working. We are going to do IVF, but I can't do it yet. How do we get the best eggs and sperm possible? And as I was researching, I learned about endocrine disrupting chemicals, came home and I was petrified at some of the things we had in our kitchen that I'd never even heard can be impactful. Cleaned out our kitchen, changed how we ate. We started cooking at home, changed the foods that we were eating, changed how we worked out, and really just started saying, globally, we're going to be our N of 1 experiments. If inflammation is bad, what are the symptoms? What causes us to feel inflamed? And how do we get rid of that? And that's at least going to be better than nothing, which is the narrative that I was told, that nothing matters. And got pregnant. I actually, in this journey, realized personally that I felt inflamed after having gluten and cut that out of my diet. Was eating very whole foods, plant-based.
Fast forward, she gets a celiac diagnosis as a part of this, which
10
is
years
wild.
later, get a celiac diagnosis. And wild, right? You're told it's nothing, bad luck, bad luck.
Nothing.
Actually, it was celiac disease.
There's actually an extremely simple test that we can do that costs $29 to know whether or not this is happening to you.
I cut gluten out of my diet. We were doing all these things and get pregnant before we had IVF and had my daughter. And then immediately postpartum had my son. Wasn't even necessarily trying. I just was like, after years of infertility, not going.
Who would think, right?
Not going to get on birth control again. We'll just kind of.
That happened to me and to Caitlin as well.
Right.
I'm also the product of that. Like, my parents, 5-6 years to get pregnant with my sister, 4 years to get pregnant with my brother. My brother's 6 months old. They go on an overnight in, like, maybe this is like way before Airbnb, obviously, but that kind of an overnight, like some home, and in the drawer next to their bed was a pack of condoms, and they were like, we don't need that. And here I am today.
Love
so
it.
like, so even myself literally sitting here.
Yeah.
Same type of thing. Well, you guys will appreciate this too. I have two sisters. One of them, who's a year younger than me, we'll just say very fertile, no issues. The youngest one, who's 8 years younger than me, has 3 children now, but had a total of 6 pregnancy losses.
Ooh.
And at the time of my diagnosis, she was really struggling. And I said, look, I have a celiac diagnosis. She kept having losses in between some of her pregnancy spacing, and she got tested, and guess what?
She has it too.
She has it too. Stopped eating gluten, and no more pregnancy losses for her. And now her family's complete. So that's one thing. And of course, it doesn't mean everybody has celiac or everybody needs to do one certain thing and cut out gluten forever and ever. And I encourage people to see if they're sensitive to it, but trust me, I miss it, man. Gluten is delicious. And if I could eat it, I absolutely would. But it speaks to the power of learning to listen to your body too, which is also a skill that most women have never been taught because we were dismissed. We don't share and talk. Are your period cramps normal or are they abnormal? Is it normal to bleed through? I have physician friends who bleed through their clothes on their period. And it's not until I say, you're not supposed to do that they will actually go get an evaluation and get diagnosed with terrible fibroids, or that their pain makes them cancel OR cases. And I say that's endometriosis. There's things we can do. These are medical professionals who they themselves do not talk about their symptoms, don't share. So how is the regular person supposed to know? And then you add that to the fact that you go to the doctor half the time. If you said my period pain's really impactful, many physicians would have said, well, here's just a pack of birth control. Not that birth control is bad, but that without even
it's
trying
the answer
to get
to everything,
without trying to get to a diagnosis,
At best, they do that. I've had doctors, and now, hearing your story, she probably was in horrible pain and bled through her clothes 10 minutes earlier before this. And I come in and say, I'm in pain and bleeding through my clothes. And she's like, welcome to being a woman. Shut up.
Oh my gosh.
It's
not the shut up.
Not really shut up. I'm
Dr.
giving
Natalie,
some poetic license here. She didn't really say shut up.
Sophia's super dramatic.
I hear people.
We have to give the people a show. So, but no, truly, she just laughed and said, welcome to being a woman. And, have you tried not talking about it to anyone? Because I'm hearing it right now, and that's just the vibe you get from this. And yeah, looking back, she probably was the one that was like, well, I'm so sorry for you. I'm running 45 minutes behind on all my patients, and I'm bleeding through my pants right now. So what do you want me to do for you? But in reality, at best, you will usually get told, this is a part of being a woman. Why don't I test your iron? Oh, it looks fine. There's nothing I can do for you.
I mean, if that's even done, right? I think so many times it's like, this is normal, cramps are normal, just so dismissive. But the worst part about that is it teaches us to dismiss our own body too. Because then we do subconsciously say, well, everybody else has this and I'm just not tolerating it as well. So we grow into adulthood in a lot of ways, not trusting our own symptoms or gaslighting ourselves, because that's what how we've been treated previously. And so that's really where you can't advocate for your health. You don't have any agency to try to direct your own care unless you have education to say, this is normal, this is not, this deserves an evaluation, and you feel confident advocating for yourself in that way. And that's a big piece of why the book exists too, but also why I'm so passionate about this. I feel like learning to listen to your own body, to that gut feeling when things are not normal, when you feel off, and feeling like you deserve to get that evaluated. We all deserve that.
I know that our listener right now is probably wondering, we have a doctor sitting in front of us. If anyone's listened to this podcast for any length of time, what Caitlin and I would say about this, that, and the other thing. I guess kind of like a burning question that's likely in people's minds is how do I communicate this to a doctor in a way that's going to get me heard? Like, what is it that you are looking for? Maybe not you, because you're you, but what is it that your peers, your colleagues need to hear in order to be sort of sprung into action, in order to kind of be like, oh, whoa, red flag? Like, what are the, because when a gal comes
Yeah.
in and says, well, sometimes I feel bloated and then I get a hangnail on this finger, and then sometimes in my left eye it's blurry. And, like, what is a symptom that should be communicated? How should that be communicated? And versus just like dumping everything you've ever felt onto this doctor, and they walk away being like, you are crazy. So like, how do people give us a guideline here?
Sophia, it's a really great question. And I'm going to tell you some of the top mistakes I see. The first one is, oh, I'll bring that up at my annual exam. That is the top thing. If a patient said, I hear that all the time. Oh, I have my annual, I'll bring this problem up then, because people need to understand that an annual exam, that slotted amount of time, in order for your doctor to bill for it, there's a list of preventive care measures they have to get through. We'll say you're at your OBGYN. They have to do a breast exam, a pap smear. They have to ask these certain questions. These are all mandated by insurance if we're in a traditional health model. And they don't have the time in that appointment, honestly, to even get through probably the whole list that they need to. So then when you come up and you're like, oh, by the way, I'm bleeding through my clothes and it's really been bothering me, it's difficult because they have a list of things to address and now you have a problem. So number one, physicians have an appointment type. It's a problem specific visit where if you're bleeding through your clothes, if you have period pain that is preventing you from going to dinner, going to work, going to school, if your periods are not regular and predictable, if you have any of these concerns or generalized concerns as well, recurrent pregnancy loss, etc., but you have any concern, we'll just say you have a concern, you can call and you can say, hi, I would like to schedule a visit with my doctor because I'm bleeding through my clothes. And then you're going to get a 20-minute visit with no agenda from your physician except to hear what is going on with you. So first of all, scheduling the right type of an appointment is very impactful because now your doctor doesn't already come in with a list. They're able to come in and say, what brings you in today? The second thing that I see all the time is that's the first question I ask. What's going on? What brings you in? I am giving the floor to you to share your story. And sometimes that can be overwhelming. People haven't thought through this. They stumble over the timeline or what's going on. And as a physician, we can only make decisions, decide to order tests. I'm trying to put together puzzle pieces from what you're telling me based on your symptoms. So take the time before that visit to think through whatever the problem is. How long has it been going on? Is it present all the time or does it come and go? What's impacting you the most? What are you concerned about? So that you can present your story in the best light possible. In the perfect world, you have an amazing physician on the other end who's going to ask nitpicky questions and really try to dive into what could be going on. But also at the end of it, you need to know the next steps. And I hope everybody's with an amazing physician who's clearly laying out what's going to happen next is XYZ. But if not, I want you to be in a position to say, okay, so what do I need to do? I need to get blood work. I'm going to have this test. We're going to follow up, or how will I find out results? Like, how do we keep the train moving? And in the book for period problems specifically, I go into what to expect. If your cycles are irregular, heavy, bleeding abnormally, bad pain, like what's the normal diagnostic evaluation, so that if you have some of those problems, you can open it up and say, okay, what about these tests? Or can we check some of these? What's going to happen next? Because sometimes we don't speak the right language, and trying to elevate the individual person to have that medical language and speak and know what to ask for. I believe people are super smart. Women especially are brilliant. If we help them understand what's happening in their body, one, they can advocate the best. And two, they're going to be in a place to help enact change more, both from their doctor and within their own life. And then I think to part of your hangnail question, Sophia, I do have a whole list, in the book in chapter 1 about the symptoms of chronic inflammation, which part of the problem is they are vague. There's a lot of them. But the truth is, you should be able to function your day to day, right? When we can't sleep, when we have constant headaches, when we're always having GI distress, when we're fatigued and we need that afternoon coffee all the time, these are some of those big warning signs that your body is not handling the day-to-day activities as it should. And it's not that you're not handling it. It's a red flag that there's some other process that your body is busy dealing with. And that's what this inflammation is. So I always say, like, look through there, look at the list. And I'll tell you guys this first. I've worked on this book for years and I've been trying to get it out into the world for eons. And traditional publishing is the longest process on planet Earth. And it has driven me crazy, crazy. And I don't know when this will go live, but next week we are announcing that if you pre-order the book, you'll get chapters 1, 6, and 7 immediately. Because women who are in the struggle right now, that's the inflammation, the trying to get pregnant, the infertility, I want them to have the chapters years ago, months ago, but immediately.
Yeah.
So
I deserve this yesterday, but I'll do you one. I'll get as close as I can to that, and that's immediate
I had
download.
to fight with the publisher, and they were saying, "Oh, a couple months doesn't matter," and I said, "That is 2 months is everything."
2 months is everything. Every month, because you're grieving every month the loss of the hope that you had and the pregnancy you wanted that month. And for the listeners, being a little bit behind the scenes, as I'm writing a book, Dr. Natalie, on how to get pregnant with PCOS, but I'm self-publishing. But what I'm learning for this type of a book to get out into the world and to get seen, like, pre-sales mean everything. So if you're thinking of buying this, and this episode is going to release earlier than your published date, and so this is the perfect audience who's teed up and wants this information and will be able to access pre-sales. Pre-sales help go into like that first week of sales for the book. And that first week of sales is usually the best opportunity at a book hitting like the New York Times bestseller list, which getting that type of kind of exposure then help perpetuates this system of more people hearing about the book. And for a book like this, that even just thumbing through, I found such valuable information that you all need listening to this. This is the kind of book you want to buy ahead of time. And that's so great that you were able to come together with the publisher on a way to get some of it in their hands ahead of time. So really consider pre-ordering. And is the pre-order just of the ebook version?
You can order any version.
Okay.
So Audible, ebook, or hardcover.
Okay.
And we have a variety of pre-order bonuses, but the chapters are going to be a part of that. So as long as you pre-order it, you'll get those 3 chapters. They'll be in an ebook form for the chapters, obviously.
Right, of course.
And then you'll still get your book in whatever form you ordered it when you get it. And thank you for saying that. Yes, we'd love the book to make the New York Times bestseller because it gives fertility to a moment and a lot of awareness. But that impacts bookstores choosing to order it, stock it on their shelves, so that even if somebody isn't on social media and they walk into their local bookstore, that they'll be more likely to find a book that can help them. So pre-orders
it's not just like a money machine. It's like exposure. And you spent a lot of time working on this book. Like, let's let it have the impact that really you need, audience. Like, let's get it in the hands of more people, which I think is really, really, you can pay back a gift in choosing to pre-order versus just getting it later on.
Thank you.
I mean, even if I think about people that are considering, the path to becoming a reproductive endocrinologist is a long road. And I'm thinking of like the teenager who's like, maybe this is what I want to do with my life when I go to college. Let me read something to see if this is interesting to me. Like somebody going into an education towards maybe not even a reproductive endocrinologist, any person who's working in the fertility field, coming into this and being like, okay, cycle tracking, okay, endometriosis, okay, luteal phase defect. Like, there's too many physicians out there that don't even think a luteal phase defect is even a thing.
I know.
They don't even believe in it, let alone
Yeah, I mean, I've had a lot of OBGYNs who I got an early copy to, who have said they learned a lot, and it made them feel more prepared to sit across from patients who are having infertility. So I appreciate you saying that, Sophia, too, like that even if you're not maybe at the stage where you're wanting to get pregnant or thinking about that, but even from an educational perspective, if you
Oh, yeah.
want to go into a line where you care for women at all, it's so valuable. And I always say my perfect audience for the book, which is the hardest to target, would be the person who wants kids one day, but not yet, because you really, the earlier we could get this information just into how we make decisions and how we treat our bodies and how we think about approaching fertility instead of the current approach, which is often, well, one, don't worry about it until you're ready to get pregnant. And then two, you have to fail first before we feel like doing anything about it. Have enough pregnancy losses or struggle to get pregnant. Then we'll test your AMH. Then we'll do a semen analysis. Then we'll do an ultrasound. That mentality to me, I have no tolerance for anymore in the world where infertility rates are rising. And I think that's just a really reactive medical approach to still have in today's world.
We're going to take a break from this episode to hear about one of our sponsors. You've probably heard me say this before, but preparing your body for pregnancy is not just about you. It's about both of you. Fertility is truly a team effort, and that's why I love the Fullwell Fertility Trio for Two. Fullwell was founded by a fellow registered dietitian and fertility expert, Ayla Barmer, and this bundle was designed to support both partners in the months leading up to conception. It combines their top-rated prenatal vitamin, omega-3 fish oil, and a fertility booster supplement that covers things like CoQ10, N-acetylcysteine, alpha-lipoic acid, and organic ashwagandha root extract. The nutrients here support overall egg quality, sperm health, fertility, and even your stress resilience. If your partner's semen analysis looks normal, or if it's suboptimal and we need to improve things, nutrition plays a key role for things like sperm motility, count, and DNA quality. For women, these same nutrients help with ovulation, egg development, and healthy hormone balance, not to mention mitochondrial support, which is a huge piece of how your gametes mature and get ready to be that queen egg or that king sperm that make it to combining to form an embryo. These things are foundational for a strong, healthy pregnancy. I personally love that Fullwell's formulas are third-party tested, they're evidence-based, and made with doses that actually match what the research shows we need. No fluff, no underdosing. So if you're planning to start trying this winter or sometime in 2026, or you've been trying to conceive for a while, it's time to think about starting to nourish your bodies for what's ahead, or take a step up from your current protocol to one that is high quality. Head to fullwellfertility.com and use the code FFF20 for 20% off your order. That's FFF20 at checkout. I'll drop the link in the show notes for this specific fertility trio bundle and for Fullwell, along with this code FFF20. Give yourself and your future family the best foundation with Fullwell's Fertility Trio for Two.
I'm interrupting this episode for another of our sponsors. This one is so exciting. They actually approached us and asked if we wanted to do a partnership, which was a resounding yes from me because I have been a huge fan of their products for years now, and that is Cozy Earth. If you haven't heard of Cozy Earth, they make the softest, most luxurious, most comfortable bedding and linens and towels and just all the things that you would want in your home. So if you are looking to have a fresh start this new year, if you want to have a refresh in your bedroom, in your pajamas, in your loungewear, in your bath towels, your bedding, anything like that, Cozy Earth is the place to go. You have heard us harp on sleep quality on this podcast 100 times. If your bed is soft and cool and smooth, how much better of a night of sleep do you have? And that is really what Cozy Earth is offering. They have a risk-free purchase option where you can try them out for 100 nights. And if you don't absolutely love them, you can return them hassle-free. But let me guarantee you, you will love them because these are seriously fantastic linens. There's also a 10-year warranty. So
if they are not living up to your expectations within those 10 years, Cozy Earth is there to help resolve the issue with you. So go on over to cozyearth.com and use our code FFF20 for up to 20% off. And if you get the post-purchase survey, be sure to mention you heard about Cozy Earth right here on the Food Freedom Fertility Podcast. Bye.
So that makes me want to ask, how is your approach different now that you've gained this kind of supplementary understanding than like the typical OBGYN and REI pathway? Like, you obviously focused on inflammation and ways to help the client that maybe doesn't actually need IVF, but nobody was curious enough to find other root causes. How has that informed like the different model of care? You know, you started your own practice so that you could do it your way. How is it different?
Let's be clear. I mean, I have an IVF lab, so I do IVF. There are cases where people will need IVF to conceive, right? Like, there's no world where everybody, which is an important thing to say, because there is a narrative out there by some people acting like IVF doesn't need to exist. And I think it's really important to know that there's a place for IVF no matter what. And how I view this is about really walking the journey with patients, more comprehensive testing. If you call our office and you say, I want fertility testing, great. Let's sit down for a visit and let's get fertility testing, regardless of if you've tried 0 months, 6 months, or 12 months, because you might make a different decision if you find out something about your body. If your ovarian reserve is low now, you might choose to get pregnant faster. You might freeze your eggs. You might change your lifestyle. You might get an autoimmune diagnosis. There's a plethora of things that might happen that if we just say, well, we'll test that once you have failed to get pregnant for 12 months, we are missing the biggest window of opportunity where you can make change on what your story will be. So it's really about bringing the patient into the story, saying we're going to do more testing, really educate them. Our first visits are an hour long, so it's mostly education. We're going to talk. They're all virtual. And then we're going to really dive into learning about your body, because that core principle, if you understand your own physiology, you're going to be on board about, why am I doing this test? Oh, I understand. Or why is this treatment recommended? Okay, that makes sense to me. I always say I can't control every outcome, but I can control the journey, that you knew what we were doing, why we were doing it. You felt confident that the treatment is the best that we can offer for what's going on. And also, not that there's a one size fits all approach. You'll never hear us be like, oh, this is just what we do for people. I think that
the worst. Well, this is what we do.
This is just what we do. It's always, these are the options. This is why I recommend this for you, you know, but ultimately, like, you're in the driver's seat, right? I'm a passenger in the car. Like, we're trying to get there together. We have the same goal in mind, but it's really about making it more of an active participation for the individual person. Because at the end of the day, it's not me who's getting pregnant. It's you, hopefully, right? It's your journey, it's your family, it's your fertility.
This is just simply not going to impact you, Dr. Natalie Crawford, the way it will impact this other person. She just simply has more skin in the game.
Yeah, and 100%. And at the end of the day, like, I want that for you too. I remember the worst part of my journey and being told it's just luck was feeling powerless, right? Even I'm like, just tell me like something, because even if it isn't everything, having that idea that there's 0 things that you can do, whether it's treatment or diet or lifestyle or knowledge, give me a book to read.
Especially when it's a straight lie.
It's just, especially knowing it's a lie. Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's saying like, okay, here is our game plan. This is what we are going to do. This is the testing we're going to do. I always say, these are my lifestyle recommendations. It's take it or leave it. Like we said at the beginning, I'm here to give you data. You make decisions. So here's the information. You take this, because at the end of the day, even with IVF, we can only work with the eggs and sperm that we get. And we know that their quality is impacted in the time period before we get them out of your body. So it makes sense if you sit here and say, well, IVF is expensive, time consuming, physically and emotionally draining. It's the most aggressive treatment we have. It has the highest success rate of any treatment. But if you're investing all of those resources,
even then, those success rates really aren't that exciting to someone staring down the barrel of it.
Look, a 65% chance of success per genetically normal embryo is amazing in context of where we started.
It is, but it's still, for the person who's staring down the barrel of it, is like,
it's not.
I'm doing all of this for that.
Sophia, like being in medicine, it's wild. Like my friends one of my best friends is an orthopedic surgeon. She's like a 99% success rate with ACL repair, right? I mean, almost everybody gets better.
For real. You're like, dude, you could put me up against the Yankees pitcher and I'd have a better chance of slamming a homer than I would having a baby through this whole process. This is insane.
So that's where we are, and that's the best the field can get right now. We've come a long way with the field, but you deserve to know the information that can impact that outcome.
Amen.
If there are things you can do that can make that better or worse, which there clearly are, we absolutely need to be transparent about what that is, and then you can make that call.
It's so wild what you just said, that you talked to your orthopedic friend who's like a 99% success rate with this repair. Die. You're like, must be nice.
I know, she's like, I would die with a 65% chance of success. I was like, I mean, it's rough. Like, I mean, think about that. That means 2/3 of the time. I mean, like 2/3 of the time, right? Okay, we're getting where we want to get, or not even, but like 40% plus. Like we're sitting with somebody who didn't have the outcome they wanted for that transfer, trying to come up with a game plan. That means we have lots of WTF, what now, bad news visits, which is a really hard emotional place to be. And we have to take it really pragmatically. And to me, this is shared decision-making at its core. The stakes are super high in all aspects of this type of treatment.
I think one thing that complicates the matter is everybody who wants to be pregnant yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And by the time they have tried and failed and started testing and kind of marched down this pathway, they want to jump into the process. And it's almost like, get me into IVF as fast as I can.
They're just trying to stop the pain.
Well, and they want their family. And
sometimes we do that. We were at a place where, from a time perspective, maybe it's not the only thing that's offered, but it's what makes sense, because we do want to get there faster now.
Exactly.
You just can't imagine going through this for longer and having it continue to hurt.
Well, not even just that. My point that I'm trying to get to is then you get in front of a doctor who, Dr. Crawford, excuse me, but we've just had a lot of patients in this scenario where it's like there is so obviously things that we need to address that are going to make this very hard, and we don't have a 65% success rate, that even 2, 3, 6 months of optimizing some of these things will give them such a better chance. So you have a vulnerable person walking in saying, I want this yesterday, 2 years ago, 5 years ago, and a doctor who's like, I can help you do something now and I'll make a lot of money doing it. And they're both like, let's go. But really, ethically, maybe it isn't the best thing to move forward. Yes, age is like one of the main factors we can't really change. We can't take a 35-year-old and say, let's start trying at 25.
Yeah.
We can take a 25-year-old and freeze eggs. We can educate them, but we can't go back in time. We haven't done that in science yet. And so it is a really hard thing when you have a vulnerable person who wants this yesterday and a doctor that can do something now. And they move forward when we know that things like caffeine intake and alcohol intake and diet and so many things,
insulin levels and
vitamin D levels, thyroid. I've had clients go through IVF with a TSH above 5 and not be successful. And you come to me and I'm like, I can't even prescribe you thyroid medicine, but I know you need it. And I know you needed it 2 years ago when you did IVF.
It's heartbreaking, though. I see these too. I probably see more second opinion consults at this stage of my career than ever, where people have done treatment at other places and not had success. And so I know you're not exaggerating that people are not experiencing great care at all places. And I don't want to misspeak, because there are some fantastic physicians out there. Fantastic physicians, great clinics. However, that's not the universal experience. And it was really eye-opening because we kind of think our peers are all treat patients like we do. And when you become to the place where you see the record and you see how people are treated or the decisions that are made or things that are overlooked, that maybe they take a little bit of time. I once had somebody tell me, oh, they didn't recommend genetic testing of embryos because women cannot accept not having an embryo transfer if everything came back genetically abnormal. That it would be better to just put embryos in so you can at least charge them for a transfer. And because the woman would be too emotional if she didn't have a transfer for it, which I couldn't even believe that. I was like, I couldn't even believe I was engaging in this discussion in today's day of age. I said, I think the majority of women, if they knew no embryos had a chance at becoming a child, would not want to go through the emotional, physical aspect of an embryo transfer and would rather get to another cycle faster. It's that core concept, oh, women can't handle this information. It's wild.
That is like so not even the right thing to talk about. Like when I hear, when I hear genetic testing of embryos, the first thing that comes to mind is not, will a woman be able to accept this if I say it to her? Let's hide the truth from her. But what's the risk to the embryo? Because this is the precious resource. This thing here is what we've worked so hard to get.
Again, it's not something everybody
There's
has to do.
There's arguments against genetic testing, but
that's not
woman's fragile
that one's not
state is not the one.
Like there's pros and cons to discuss with patients, but you're talking about not even entertaining the discussion. And I think to the point I was trying to make here is that it's become more apparent to me the longer I'm in this place that I can only treat so many patients clinically. The point of the book is not to get more patients into my clinic, right? I see tons of patients. It is so that you can have information that will influence your odds of success in or outside of clinic, the things that you can control. I want you controlling them, but also how do you show up and advocate for yourself with the doctor you are in front of?
Exactly.
And if they're not the right fit for you, you can figure that out sooner, because so often I've had patients say, I just thought this is how fertility doctors were.
Yeah. And a lot of people listening to this podcast can also see through some things just because of what we bring up, like even a statement like that, like this is not normal and you should maybe ask these questions. But I'm going to bring it back to the science side of it and say, what, if anything, we're talking about genetic testing of embryos, but we were originally going to talk about the science behind egg quality. Egg quality is an interesting concept because from a real clinical perspective, how do you tell that the egg quality has improved or could improve or needs improvement? And it's not so much a direct test a lot of the time, it's an indirect test. It's an indirect view of cycle health. Did your progesterone levels go up after you ovulated? Like there are other things we can look at, but I know what Sophia and I look at. I'd love to hear what you look at and signs posts for the client that is trying to work on these things. How can they see I'm making progress when we don't have like a magic ball to look into the inside of your ovary right now and see what's going on?
Caitlin, wonderful point. We don't have a test for egg quality like we do for ovarian reserve testing. So it does lead us to making it difficult to know. And there is truth to the fact that the only way I can really know if it's egg or sperm quality, really pinpoint down, is to challenge your eggs in the lab and see how they do and see what happens with embryo development, because then we get a lot more data. Well, that's obviously much harder and more involved than getting a semen analysis and looking at sperm quality. When it comes to egg quality, the way I want to frame it to get to your question is that the fertility field has simplified egg quality equals age. And yes, age is a piece of the puzzle, but what I like to frame is egg competency is the other half. And that involves the metabolic health of the egg, the mitochondrial function, how the egg responds and makes hormones, and how it allows fertilization to occur or not occur. And that is the aspect that we do have agency over, whereas we can't rewind the clock for our age. But one thing that is true is that as people get older, yes, they are going to accumulate wear and tear of time, even even if they are in the most amazing health, time does add up at some point, and we start to see chromosome damage. I frame it as chromosomes getting out of line. If you imagine your chromosomes as kindergartners in alphabetical order, the longer I ask them to stay in alphabetical order, the more likely somebody's going to get out of line. That does happen. But if we view inflammation and insulin resistance as having, puppies and kitties and candy in the room with the kindergartners, they are going to get out of line even faster because inflammation breaks down the meiotic spindles and also influences that competency, because people also get more metabolically unhealthy as they age as well. So you get a double hit with age, which is your general health and your cellular health, in addition to what happens with chromosomal change with age.
That's
So
such
we
a
can-
good analogy. I just have to tell you.
That is
that
a really good one.
It's a
Thank you.
really good analogy.
I worked really hard
the
over
puppies
my
and kitties
career
and
to-
kindergartners in a room. I
Like-
pictured it so well.
I know. I used to be like,
interrupt you, but
metaphase of, meiosis. Remember, meet in the middle, and people would glass over. I was like, I need something different here. So the kindergartners tends to really,
It's
people
so
can
good.
visualize, okay, that makes sense. So when we think about it that way, we can, yes, maybe we don't get the exact answer about the genetics of the egg unless we're doing IVF or challenging, but we can see about that function some of the competency. And that's what you are getting to the point of, Caitlin. And a lot of that is truly how your cycle is going. And to make, a long story short here, cycle tracking is more than marking cycle day 1 into an app. You can even have regular cycles, but have luteal phase defect, which is the first stage of ovulatory dysfunction, or have regular cycles and have a short or long follicular phase, which is also representing some stage of dysfunction. And then, of course, you can have cycles that start to become irregular, skipping, no cycle, or amenorrhea, and those are obvious abnormalities. But most of the time, subtle metabolic dysfunction, insulin resistance, chronic inflammation are presenting in the subtle, I call it hypothalamic dysfunction. The inflammation is impacting how the brain and ovaries communicate. It's also impacting how the ovary responds. So the brain's trying to send out a signal. Inflammation's static on that radio, so it's not sending it out quite as strong. The ovary's distracted, so it's not responding quite as well. And this is where we see that first stage of ovulatory dysfunction, a shortening of the luteal phase, poor progesterone production, and you can still have very regular cycles. So unless you're learning, like, when am I ovulating? How long is my luteal phase? You're not going to be able to detect that. And very few clinicians will ask. They'll just say, are your cycles regular? And you might say, yes. And then you move on to the next question.
And not even knowing what this word regular means. Not even, because, like, what does that mean? Does it mean regularly timed, regular volume, regular pain level, regular whatever? Really quickly then, I went on the gram today and I told people that I was going to talk to you. And I said, if you were going to sit down with Natalie this morning and ask her something, what would you want to ask? So I think we should dip into this question pool that I've got here. We've got so many questions. Let's see. Ooh, this one would be right up your alley right here. Some of them are maybe not as much.
Some of them are, I told you, get ready for unhinged questions. People are
I
about
know,
to put
you
their
wanna be
whole life
unhinged?
story in here.
Is Viagra going to help my uterine lining?
Potentially there's a small subset of people who have a really thin uterine lining who don't respond as we expect to maybe either stimulation or exogenous estrogen, that we sometimes try vaginal Viagra to increase the blood flow to the uterus. I'm not going to act like it's a proven thing or we would do it for everybody.
This was oral Viagra she was asking about.
Yeah, we do vaginal Viagra.
Well, my message to this lady is there are a lot of different things to do with your uterine health, and this would probably be number 100 on the list. And I'd try maybe 100 different things before.
This is a very low.
The Viagra.
Agree.
Okay, next question. This gal has a septum. She's been trying to conceive for a year and a half, no positives. Her doctor is hesitant to do any surgery because she hasn't been having miscarriages. What would you say to this gal?
The rate of a miscarriage with a uterine septum can be up to 80%, and it normalizes to your age-related rate after surgery. I don't believe women have to fail to get care. I would go see another doctor to get surgery.
I would agree with that as well and say, just because you haven't had a pregnancy loss that was like you got a positive and all these things, it doesn't mean that sperm isn't meeting egg and baby can't find a comfy home. That could
Correct.
still be happening. And you know what? One more thing while we're at it. Since this is an advanced copy that is up for revision, I want to give you a note on here because it's something that I've heard you say. And I think now that you've been through writing this book, Dr. Natalie, that you can maybe phrase it a little bit different.
Okay.
Because you've said, well, you know, sperm and egg, sperm and egg, sperm and egg. But what about uterus? You go into that much more in this book, I think, than you give yourself credit for. And that the fertility puzzle isn't necessarily just the sperm and egg, and that you as a practitioner have really a lot more answers for people when the problem maybe isn't sperm or isn't egg. You have got still so much to offer.
Yeah, I always say to patients, sperm, egg, or, environment, and I put uterus kind of into the environment category
Got it.
there. But I think that's a really good, fair point, because talking to people and even in writing it, I think it should be a louder piece of the story.
Because really not a lot of people are. I mean, the sperm and egg story, that's IVF in the dish.
Yes.
That's when we've got sperm and egg in the lab.
Mhm.
But once we take them out of the lab and put them in utero, the story changes and there's so much more.
Well,
and you go into that quite.
Yes.
I mean, this is not me correcting you. This is me giving you
No.
some props and credit here.
Well, thank you. And to that point, sperm and egg develop inside your bodies, right? So the environment influences that as well.
Very true. Very true. And yeah, really, I mean, even when we see, like when you guys were talking about egg quality, like what can happen in an egg in a dish outside your body, there's not a direct correlation to what's happening in vivo, like what's happening in your body too. There's still so much more to the story.
We have to look at the whole picture.
We just can't really measure it. So what are we going to talk about on this podcast? We don't have anything to say about it because there's nothing to measure. Dr. Natalie Crawford, we want to thank you for coming on to this episode, for sharing with us your heart, your gifts, your everything. We are so, so, so very thankful. Before we sign off, anyone who is like, wait, I'm in Austin, how do I see you? Or how do I get a copy of this book? Or where do I learn more about this person? There is a jet flying over my house right now. You can hear that. What would you say to people who want more Dr. Natalie Crawford in their lives?
So I'm at Natalie Crawford MD on Instagram, and the website is nataliecrawfordmd.com. You can buy the book anywhere books are. And if you fill out the form on the website for the pre-order bonus, you'll get the 3 chapters immediately. And then I'm at Fora Fertility here in Austin, Texas, FORA, forafertility.com. And you can fill out a patient request if you're interested.
Thank you so much for coming and giving us your time. We're so appreciative.
Thank you guys so much. It's been so incredible to talk to you both. I could have
talked
talked forever.
The best in finally launching this book. This is a wonderful labor of love, and we appreciate it.
We're excited for you.
Mm-hmm. I hope your patient goes really well, and that she is logging in right now to tell you, "Oh my God, I'm finally pregnant."
Hey friends, we're taking a break from our episode to talk about one of our sponsors. And this sponsor is the PCOS app. Did you know that I made an app all about PCOS? Well, I did, and you can find so many resources in it. We have slowly moved all the resources from my PCOS Hormone Academy course over into the PCOS app, and that talks about all things PCOS topically. Like if you have acne, you can go look at the skin and acne modules and see what does Western medicine offer? Why does this impact PCOS? What can we do about it? What are natural remedies? What are nutritional remedies? We talk about hair loss and hirsutism all through that lens where we go through what is it? Why is it impacted by PCOS? Or why do we need to pay more attention to this particular thing? And what can we do about it? And we provide a vast resource to help you both advocate for yourself at the doctor's office and treat yourself at home naturally. Now, the exciting thing that I want to share with you is starting in January 2025, we're starting to migrate all of the content that I have published so far on fertility into this app. I used to sell a course for $700 all about how to get pregnant with PCOS, and that is all getting moved into the app between January and March. So you can take the course as if you enrolled in the whole thing for $10 per month. So head to your app store, whether you're on a Google Android device or an Apple device. If you type in PCOS app, you just look for that really pretty lavender flower, you'll find it. Download it and join us because you're going to get weekly recipes and all the fertility focused PCOS content that you need. It will start being uploaded under the Academy tab. So stay tuned for that. And let's get back to our episode.
Hey, it's me again, Sophia Pavia, registered dietitian nutritionist specializing in women's health, fertility, and optimal progesterone production. And I'm interrupting an episode of my own podcast to tell you about my online course called Ovulation Unlocked. So if you've been listening to our podcast episodes, you've probably heard a lot of things about basal body temperature, cervical mucus, cervical position, and tracking your fertility. Well, I have designed a 90-minute self-paced online course, which I titled Ovulation Unlocked, that puts all of that together and teaches you how to be the expert on your own fertility from home. This course is designed to put you in the driver's seat of your own fertility, not only so you can know what's going on with your body on any given day, but so that if you need medical help, you can show up to the appointment informed and ready to communicate. Too frequently, us women show up to our doctor's appointments and just say something like, I want to have a baby. And the doctor looks at you and says, good for you. Stop using birth control, start taking a prenatal, come back in a year if you're not pregnant. And that's all we get. However, Ovulation Unlocked puts you in the driver's seat, puts you in control of your fertility to where if you need help, you can show up to that appointment informed and ready to communicate your needs. So if you want to become the expert on your own body and your own fertility, head on over to my Instagram bio and tap the Ovulation Unlocked link today.
All right, I guess that leaves you and me to do our Yeah Girls, huh?
Mm-hmm. Okay, I have mine. It's literally happening right now.
Oh, I want to hear about it.
We live in a home that was built in the 70s. It's the coolest home, but it is energy-wise incredibly inefficient.
Really?
It's got like big, cool, mid-century modern lines. My living room like goes from first story up to second story with a roof and a banister from the bedrooms up top that look over. And so like just think about heating a room like that.
Yeah,
it, like
so much
the heat
space
goes up and keeping our home cool. Plus, most of the doors and windows are original and need replacing, and it's like $100,000 project, which we just don't have the funds
I feel like
for quite
glass
yet.
is so expensive.
Glass
it's wild.
is so expensive. So my husband and I have been like thinking and praying about like what's one way that we can be responsible with our money and stewarding our resources and impacting this. And we have 4 heating and cooling units on the house, and our house also doesn't have gas to it. So all the heating and cooling units run on electricity, which in the summer is expensive to keep it cool, but in the winter it's even more expensive to heat it up. And so we decided to buy this really cool, incredibly energy efficient, triple burn wood fireplace insert where it's like all encased in the thing and it burns even like the smoke. It's very cool situation. And it should heat 3,000 square feet. And it was like a really great in-between compromise of like taking a lot of burden off of our heating and cooling units. Anyway, this has been the hardest process though. Like we decided we wanted this thing. We paid for it like before Thanksgiving.
Oh, Lord.
It needed to be delivered by January 31st for us to get like a energy efficiency tax credit for 2025. All these like things. But we were told it would be installed by the end of last year. Well, today we're recording on February 20th and I literally walked out of this recording for a couple minutes because they're showing us how to use it and just finished installing it. But it's like the 4th day they've been out working on it because we just have a really fun, many obstacle type chimney that it went into. And there have been a lot of like missteps and miscommunications by the company we hired. And that's not the point of the story. It's been a long time coming, and frustratingly did not show up before we had like 0-degree temperatures for a week in January and had like $1,000 energy bill. Yeah. Which we spent like $7,000 on this unit and installation, and it will pay for itself and the tax credit and all that. But like we were really hoping we'd get it before we got these types of temperatures.
Yeah, for real.
And it's been like 70 out, but it's cold today. It's the 3rd day in a row they've been here this week, and we can't burn a fire for 24 more hours. But tomorrow morning I can wake up and we can build a fire in this fireplace, and I'm so excited. So yeah, girl, that we're going to have some ambiance. It's a real wood burning fire stove.
Oh, I love that.
It's just going to be so fun. But because it's completely encased, it's also very safe for like kids and
pets.
There's going to be no
elderly
crackles people. And yeah. So, and it's in the heart of our home, the center of it, where like 3 of the heating units are impacted. We've got one on the main level, one upstairs in the bedrooms, and it's right near the door that goes to my wing of the house where I am in my office, and our master bedroom and nursery are. And so it'll impact this side where we have another unit. So until we figure out how to make a lot of money and replace all the windows and doors and then maybe get some solar on this bitch.
Yeah.
It's going to be a big stopgap, and I'm really excited for many reasons. Yeah, girl.
Yeah, girl. Yeah, girl. I love a wood burning fireplace. Love a wood burning fireplace. I love the whole experience of it. Like, I love the wood pile in the yard, the chopping, the whole thing. And
The
like,
cozy
especially
vibe,
especially with
building
kids, you can
it,
be like,
teaching them
go
how to
cut
build
wood.
it. Yeah.
It seems to me that your body is saying it needs a lot of work. You need to go do some hard work.
Go find the kindling.
So I need
go
you
pick up
to
the
go
sticks.
chop this wood because exactly. Well, yeah, girl to that. What is my yeah, girl? Oh my gosh. Okay, here's a yeah, girl. My oldest started doing jujitsu.
Oh, fun.
And she came home from her first jujitsu. So they have a class. The first class of the evening is for 3 to 5-year-olds. And then the second class is for 6 to 10. So she just turned 5. So I took her to the 3 to 5-year-old class. And 2 minutes in, the instructor was like, she's beyond this. Like, this is, half the kids are like crying for their mom. They're like not listening and flopping all around. So she stayed and did the second class with the 6 to 10-year-olds, and she loved it so much. She comes trotting home and announces to my husband that she doesn't even need to go to school anymore because now she just is going to do jujitsu. And
That's so
she has been asking every day if she can go. She has been just loving it so much, and it has been
But she
really
also
fun.
feels like such a big girl, like that she got to go into the cooler, older class, Yeah,
I don't know that she knew that that's what was happening, but like she just felt really happy to be doing it. And like she was just really happy. And like, even though she's like getting wrestled by these kids much bigger than her and getting like taken down to the mat, she just had the fattest smile on her face. And she's just so fearless, and she's following directions really well and like hanging on every word. And at this age, listener, like when you put your kids in sports, like it is not about the sport. That does not matter.
And if you make it about that, it's going to be terrible.
Yeah, exactly. They are there to listen to someone. Can they follow directions and listen? Can they learn when someone says, straighten your leg? Can they do that? Are they going to be the kid that's like bewildered when you tell them stand up straight? They don't even know what that means. Can they take turns? Can they get it wrong and try again? can they get it wrong but be happy for the person next to them that got it right? Or are they going to have a big meltdown because they wanted to be the one that got it right? Like all these things. It's more just like emotional training, the lessons of winning and losing, working as a team, although jujitsu is not really like working as a team, but when you send them for like soccer or whatever, that's why they're in sports at this age, is to just, the little bitty life skills that come along with it and just the joy of it. And so it was really sweet watching her get her ass kicked happily and kick some ass happily. In fact, our neighbor boy was there with her and was like near her. She was like sparring with his sister. And he told my daughter that she's a poopy. And so my daughter told the instructor, he said that, he's telling me that I'm a poopy. And she didn't like that, right? And I was like, knock him down. Like, this is why we're here. Smack him to the mat. That's what we do with this. That's what this is all about. Because the kids' parents were like, oh, boys. And I'm like, no, that's just being mean, actually. But okay. But it was like nice to have a context where we could be like, well, go get him. Go get him then. Have him be your partner on the next one and knock him down.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not like bloodying each other. They're like,
right.
How to, yeah. So that is a little bright spot in my day right now. Cause it's always those of you that have kids, finding the right extracurricular can kind of be challenging, because it's like, they love this one, but it's $500, or they love this one, but it's 40 minutes across town, or they don't like this one, but it's right next door. And so when you find something that is right next door and they love and is affordable, hot diggity. And that's where we've landed.
And like goes along with your family values, like,
yes.
I think that's a piece that, like, someone being able to defend themselves, or, like your husband has such a badass career, having a daughter that's like feels kind of badass.
And I think it makes him feel better too, because he's mentioned this, like, well, she's just going to be so beautiful. Like, she needs to have a way to not feel intimidated by people, in a way to even just, have you ever known somebody that's just really good at sensing danger? Like, they can tell that car's probably going to jump the curb. Everybody move out of the way, And then the people that are like standing there going like, a horse is a horse, of course, like staring around and like no perception of danger around them. And they're the one that gets clobbered. Like, just to be able, I'm sort of the one that gets clobbered, by the way. So that's not a dig at you if that's you, but, to be able to sort of read somebody and be like, this body language is actually getting pretty aggressive. And I know what that looks like. And I know that I kind of need to make a decision. Like, am I going to keep engaging with this person, or I'm going to get myself to safety? Does safety look like engaging with this person, or what? Like, just to be able to have that. And there's so much data out there when it comes to children in martial arts, because it's so much of like controlling your breathing and controlling yourself and being aware of your body in relation to someone else. Swimmers, like, there's good data on swimming as well, because it's like you're like controlling your breathing. Like, kids that master that have advantages in life of just being able to sort of have
some regulation.
And
I think martial arts, it like the discipline side of it too is really cool. You're very in control of a lot of things. Whereas like when you're on a baseball team and you're the first baseman, like you don't get to control how the pitch goes, or like what the catcher is telling the pitcher to do. Like there's just a lot out of your control. Whereas in martial arts, like you are the thing to control. Wax on, wax off.
Very true. And there's like real data about that like kids that do these types of sports have easier time, nervous system regulation. I mean, that was the right thing to say. So anyway, that's my yeah girl. My daughter.
Yeah, girl. Yeah, really Natalie.
She's
so fun.
Doing it. Yeah, it's really
so fun. Well, listeners, I hope you enjoyed that episode with Dr. Natalie. Sophia and I are happy to recommend her book, happy to talk to a reproductive endocrinologist that has a sense of like awareness of what Sophia and I teach you guys matters. And it's not just like, come to my IVF clinic and pay me $1 million and I will help you have a baby. You know,
No
you have a
matter the cost.
65% chance of having a baby if you come see me. I'm working with a client right now who had someone say that to her, and she is pregnant from having sex at home because she sought other advice. And it's not the only option for a lot of people.
That is very true. And even if it is the option you want to choose, there are things that can make better outcomes or not better outcomes. I mean, there's unfortunately a lot of data out there about how babies born via IVF often have a lot of issues. And I think that is due in part to like, well, we didn't help this mom get healthy. And so then we made her pregnant, but like,
yeah, we overcame the inability to conceive or to, you know, implant or something, but we haven't actually impacted the sperm and the egg that are meeting. And there's a lot that you can do in preventative means, and a lot of science showing that what you do pre-conception matters for the health of your pregnancy and the health of your offspring, health of your postpartum even. So thanks for being here. Like, share, review, rate, all the things, and we'll see you next week.
bye.